endocannabinoid system, it's actually a system that's signaling between cells. One cell sends a signal to another cell to reduce pain, to increase appetite, to balance down the T cell activity. It doesn't matter. But we have also almost the endocannabinoid system almost in all the cell in our body. Actually, I'm not familiar with a cell that we don't have. Christine, you're familiar with a cell that we don't have? I think in most of the cells in our body, we will have the endocannabinoid system. And again, this is one cell that sends the signal to the other cell. It sends the chemical compounds. We call these cannabinoids. And the other side, we have the receptors that can read the message. But there is a lot of messages and there is a lot of receptors that can read it. One of them reads Portuguese, the other one reads Hebrew, and the third one is reading English. They are different between them. But this is a very complicated. Usually people talking about 2 receptors. My lab today working on 28 different receptors that we considered part of the endocannabinoid action. Whether they are really endocannabinoid receptors or not, it's an argument. But if epilepsy being blocked by activating TRPV1 receptors or channel, so it's part of the action. So we are working on 28 receptors, and we are working on 28 receptors, probably there is 40. Probably there are more. If we're talking about the ligand, the messages itself, in the blood sample we can analyze around 140 endocannabinoids. So there is 87 endocannabinoids that the Marzo and other people published that we know they are really endocannabinoids, and around another 50 which are endocannabinoid-like, so still not published, and we think they are endocannabinoids. But in general, extremely complicated system. And cannabis is just mimic that. It's produced similar compounds to the endocannabinoids, but the cannabis is also complicated because it's not producing one compound, 2 compounds, not like the THC and CBD. 10 different families of phytocannabinoids all together. Till now, we succeed to analyze 144 different phytocannabinoids from different plants where you look. So again, very complicated. And these phytocannabinoids will bind the receptors and send a signal without the internal signal that we used to get. And mimic that. If usually when we are walking near a barbecue and smelling the barbecue smell, the meaning that small molecules from the burned meat entering to our nose, going to our olfactory system, signaling to a neuron to produce a specific endocannabinoids that bind specific receptors and will increase our appetite. The cannabis is just binding these receptors and increase our appetite without smelling anything, what we call munchies, right? We know that cannabis, if you use cannabis, you can eat cabanos with chocolate and it will see you normal, right? And the reason it's because activating a process in our body through the endocannabinoid system. So, if we look on that, usually in our body, it's a very specific signal. If I will come back, specific molecule binding specific receptors send a specific message. But on one cell, there is no one receptor. There is a complicated or few receptors on these cells. And when we're taking cannabis, when we're adjusting cannabis, many molecules enter into our body, send the signals to different receptors, which will send signal to the cell, and we're getting very complicated action. This action is not just synergism. In cannabis, what I learned in the last 4 years, it's just good, right? It's just synergism. It's not synergism. It might be that we have agonist and antagonist, activator or inhibitors in the same plant for the same receptors. So sometimes, if you are taking an extract of cannabis and you give it to a mice with epilepsy and you don't reduce the seizures, if now you will take one compound outside that interfering, you will get the action. So it's not perfect. The nature is not perfect. It's far from being perfect. So if we take it another step of complexity, cannabis, it's not one plant. In my lab today, I have over the 900 different types of cannabis. Chemovars, it's not strains because there is definition for strains, but they are different. If I'm taking 20 of these plants and I'm measuring the active compound inside, we're analyzing the active compound inside, we see they are very different from each other. So what you see now, every line it's a different plant, different chemovar, and every row it's a different cannabinoid. You see the THC and the CBDV and the CBV. And it's going up to 140. And when it's black, the meaning it's highly expressed on this strain. When it's white, the meaning it's not expressing that strain. So you see how different the active compound in each plant. They actually, if I'm taking now to medicinal side, they are actually different medicines. We call it in a generic name, we call it cannabis. Cannabis good for breast cancer. What is cannabis? Which one of the 900? We are far from understanding that. We don't know how to connect the complexity of the plant with the complexity of the endocannabinoid system. This is reality. We are not there. There's few laboratories in the world that are working very hard, 24/7, trying to understand it. But we are far from understanding that. I'm sitting and hearing in conferences people from companies saying in very confidence how much they know and what they not to know, how they know to treat patients, or they don't understand what they don't know, or it's just bullshit. We don't know, we almost don't know to connect it. So how are we doing research? How we can do that? So first of all, when I started to work on cannabis, and I was laying mainly on results from Manuel Guzman and Christine Sanchez that's sitting here, that's showing that in glioblastoma and breast cancer, cannabis can literally kill these cells. Mainly, we are talking about in vitro and in vivo, like in the plate, still not in patient. So we want to see how it's affecting the cells. So we took colon cancers, and we add cannabis to that, and we saw that it's killing all the cancer, all the cells. We add extract number 2, and we saw the same phenomena. But when we add extract number 3, we saw it's not affecting these cells. When we took breast cancer, we saw very similar phenomena. But when we took prostate cancer, we saw that the extract that killed the colon cancer and the breast cancer didn't kill the prostate cancer. The same thing, the extract number 2, but extract number 3, that didn't kill the breast and didn't kill the colon, didn't kill the breast cancer, killed the prostate cancer. When we took normal colon cells, it didn't affect them in this amount of cannabis. This is not so exciting. Every material will kill eventually cells in the plate. First of all, between killing cells in the plate and curing a person, there is $1 billion, 20 years of work, when usually everybody will lose the money. Okay? Usually it's not working. This is, as a scientist, I'm looking on principles. What's happening in the cell? I'm still not curing anyone. My patient have 4 legs and a tail usually. I'm not treating patient. But as a principle, I understand that there is a specificity between the types of the cannabis and its ability to affect these cells. There is difference between the types of the cannabis. But what is it that makes this different? If we look on the major cannabinoids, extract number 2 and extract number 3 is not different. They have the same amount of CBD and THC and other major compounds, the 5 major compounds, which we knew to read 4 years ago. But I showed you that we can look deeper. So if we are trying to look, now we see melanoma cells. And now it's a little bit more stat. Every color, it's a different strain of cannabis. If we taking 4 microgram per ml, we see that bunch of the extract didn't affect the cells, didn't kill the cells. Bunch of them kill 50%, bunch of them kill 80%. If we align these strains by the amount of THC and CBD, we see that there is no correlation between the amount of THC and CBD killing these melanoma cells. More than that, we're doing another trick. We're taking a strain called Michael that's killing 70% of the cells, and we extract from that purified THC in CBD, and even if we put 20 times more THC in CBD that we had in Michael, it doesn't kill the cells. So what we learned from that it's not the THC in CBD or not the THC in CBD alone. Maybe it's what we call the entourage effect. We need everything. We don't know. So this can be a nice work, but again, we are far from understanding because cancer, it's a given name to hundreds of different diseases. Cancer is not one disease. Even in subtypes of cancer, in breast cancer, there are many types of breast cancer. There is hair plus and then hormone sensitive and BRCA mutation. There are many types. So if we look on the same type of cancer, these both are colon cancer. On this colon cancer, that we see that few extracts are very useful to kill them. But on this colon cancer, we screen more than 500 different types of cannabis. None of them affect these cells in this amount. So this is a mess. So how we can do a research, how we can learn from that? We're going more and more specific. We said, okay, let's take one type of cancer. Let's take leukemia. And in this leukemia, let's look on one specific mutation, not one mutation, whatever. And in this mutation in amino acid 321. We're looking very, very specific, what we called in a wide way personal medicine. We are looking on very, very specific types of cancer with specific mutation. And we're doing the same. We're screening many types of cannabis, and now we see viability, how many cells survive. And you see if the line is lower, the meaning that it's killing more cells. So similar to what I showed you, in this leukemia, many strains didn't affect that, but there is one buster that killed these cells quite good. So now we're very happy because we're looking for these unique things. What is the difference in this extract? So first of all, we proved to ourselves that it's not killing cells, T cells, leukemia cells, that have different mutation. It's killing just the one that have this mutation. And then we started to do cell biology. We understand what's happened in the Golgi, which protein is elevated, why it doesn't put the right modification, it's not going to the membrane, it's going to degradation, whatever. We're doing all the cell biology to prove to ourselves that what we see, it's real. And this is my occupation. I'm a cell biologist. That's exactly what I know to do. Everything that I skip now, this is the major of my lab. So, because I think it's boring, so it's very interesting for me, but it's not, I'm not sure that I'm in the front of the right audience. So now we are going to mice model. In mice model, we create this mutation in the mice, we create xenografts, we create the tumors with this mutation, and we see that 3 weeks treatment downsized the tumors very dramatically. Because it's leukemia, we're doing bone marrow implantation, we see that we're improving the most parameters of the leukemia. We stain for this protein, we see that it reduced, but mostly and very surprisingly, if we're taking the tumors, we see accumulation of the cannabis in the tumors. And the reason, because the cannabis is lipophilic and the tumors are oily, but we see that actually there is more cannabis in the tumors than in the blood. So now, the $1 million question, actually in cannabis it's the $100 million question. Which compounds we need? What is unique in this strain that is not in the other strain? Do we need 1 compound, 3 compounds, 7, everything? I don't know. My slogan to my students, I want to know the minimum compounds that doing the maximum effect. If it's 7, I can live with that. If it's 13, I want to know. I don't know. So how are we doing that? We're taking the oil and we fractionate it. We said, okay, we have 100 compounds. Let's take the first 25, put in the first tube. Second 25 in the second tube, and so on. We cut the oil to pieces. And we're going back to the cells or to the mice, and we see every color, it's a different fraction, and the red one is the whole cell, whole extract. And you see that 3 of the fraction didn't affect the cells at all, and 1 of them works similar to the whole extract. We were very lucky. Usually it's not working that way. No, I have many types of research. I'm showing you the one that works, right? So one extract is working, so we eliminate 75% of the compounds. So now we're going back. We said, okay, what are the compounds that are in this fraction? We cut them. And we're going on and on until we identified 3 cannabinoids that if you purify them 100%, you get the same action. Any combination of one of them or 2 of them together is not working. It's 30% activity. But for reaching 100% activity, you need the 3 of them. Why? Because one of them binding CB1 receptor active the MAP kinase, the other one binding TRPV1 activating calcium. We understand the mechanism, but you need the 3 of them. One of these compounds is unknown, 3318B. Why 3318B? Because my students, the chemists, are very boring. Instead of calling it Master Killer or Kaiser Sosa or something that will be cool, they call it 1181B, and we're stuck with it forever. But this one is a major one. If you take it out, it's not working. So for 2.5 years, we got cannabis for one of the growers that we're doing this experiment with that. We're getting the cannabis, we extract, we're using it on the cells and on the mice. 8 months ago, the regulation in Israel changed. The cannabis moved from the growers to the pharmacies. We need to do it, everything GMP, and the growers need to change their greenhouse. They move to greenhouse, which are GMP facility, whatever. This strain is not producing this compound anymore, producing the other 2. But I'm missing this one. So my students, 8 months ago, came to me, whole panic, because he's about to finish his PhD. Daddy, it's not killing the cells anymore, it's not. I said, did you analyze the cannabis? He analyzed it, and we see that it's not producing this compound anymore. If we won't be able to identify it and to know what is missing, his PhD was ended. Like, how can we repeat it if we don't know what is missing? How can you find something that's working if you don't know what it is? But knowing that this is missing, we analyze all the other 900. We have the analytic for all of these strains. We just run in the computer which one have this compound the highest. I don't have any other strain that have the combination of the 3 of them. But I have other strains that have 2 of them or 1 of them. So we just pick a strain that have a high amount of these compounds. We extract it and purified it and add it to the other 2, and we got exactly the same action. And this is kind of a proof of a concept that in the end, we need to know what are the combinations, what are the compounds. So this is one way to do science. And this is, I will call, the pharma way. But cannabis, it's much more complicated. There is other ways. So first of all, when we reach this point, you need to understand that now we're going to clinical trials. But what is clinical trials in cannabis? There is 2 ways. There is 2 heads. One head is to go to a pharma company, synthesize these 3 molecules. We have a patent on that. Everything is fine. And then we'll take it to clinical trials, right? Phase 1, phase 2, phase 3. Around 6 years until we will have a medicine. It's working. It's amazing. But in Israel, we have medical cannabis. We have 51,000 patients that getting cannabis under prescription, physician prescription. Actually, they are not paying for the cannabis. They are paying a low fee. Doesn't matter what they are getting, how much they are getting, because it's under social care in Israel. So they're getting cannabis under prescription. We have 16,000 patients, cancer patients, that getting cannabis to reduce pain, increase appetite, reduce nausea. So we have 16,000 patients that getting the medicine, right? I have leukemia patients that getting medicines, but I don't know what they are getting. They are getting, I need to go back. They're getting one of these. If they will get this one, probably it won't help, right? But regulatory, I don't need to do anything. I just need to make a phone call to my friend. He's the head of the hematology department that treats this patient. Said, hey, Ehud, just give them this one. Give Scooby-Doo instead of Mickey Mouse. Do you think somebody cares if it's Scooby-Doo and Mickey Mouse? These are the names. In the prescription, it's written cannabis, 40 grams. They don't care what they are giving. So if I will tell them I think this is working, on the same day the patient will start to get them. Is it a really clinical trials? I don't know, but we can start treat patient tomorrow if we know something. And if we want to do clinical trials with all extract in Israel, it will take me around 2 months to go through all the regulation, to have Helsinki and start the clinical trials, double-blind placebo with the extract. In 5 months to 6 months, you can have a product that a patient can get. Do you have a patent on that? No. Can you secure it? No. Can you treat patient? Yes. So this is the question. Where are we standing? Who are we? Are we doing things just to have patent and money? Or is it really important also to save kids with leukemia? Does this will save kids with leukemia? I don't know. There is huge difference between mice and patient. But the patient that have this leukemia have no treatment today. Is it worth to try? So this is one side of the cannabis. Okay, the other side of the cannabis, coming from what I just told you, in Israel, we have 51,000 patients that get cannabis under prescription. We have huge clinical trial running. Why to do it on mice if you have the people that are already getting the medicine? You can take the data for what they are getting and look how it's affect them. The benefit of Israel that we have just 8 authorized growers that produce around 90 to 100 different products. If you're going to a dispensary in Los Angeles, there is around 800 products in this dispensary. You move to another dispensary, there is more dispensaries in Los Angeles than Starbucks. So you're going to another dispensary, 50 meters, I'm just landing now from New York, here. You're going to another dispensary, another 800 products which are different. How can you follow up on that? You can't. But in Israel, I have 8 growers, 100 products. So what we offer, we said, okay, let's do a database. Let's follow up on every product that's coming out. In the last 3 years, every cannabis, every time that the grower pick a batch or produce an extract or do a product that there is cannabis inside, it's going through my lab and we're doing full identification to all the cannabinoids, terpenoids, and around 30 flavonoids. I don't know if it's all the flavonoids, but around 30. So we have a fingerprint for the cannabis that the patient get. On the other hand, we're doing a follow-up on the patient and trying to align these together. And the idea that if we will define something that is working, we can take it to animal model and clinical trial to make it evidence-based. So I want to show you in the time that I left, I don't know how much I left because we didn't start on time. So I will think that I have more time. So I want to show you 2 fast research that we did under the this database that we're doing. So my lab today consists 45 students that working not on just cancer, we're doing with also epilepsy and Alzheimer's, sleep disorder, multiple sclerosis, and other things that we think medical cannabis can affect. This is coming from the database. 2.5 years ago, we had 3 kids in Israel that got cannabis to reduce seizures. In Israel, if you epileptic kids that tried 5 different medicines for epilepsy and didn't work for you, you can get cannabis with high CBD and low THC. These kids are not stoned. They're getting high CBD, low THC to reduce the seizures. Autism, going alone with seizures. A lot of time, autistic kids have also seizures. We had 3 kids, autistic kids, that got cannabis to reduce the seizures. But after 1 month, they came back to the physician and said, look, for the seizures, it's work plus minus, but it's changed our life. Our kids become less violent, more concentrated, sleep better, eat better. We have a different child at house. And in Israel, it's a small place. Everybody have WhatsApp. We have a group of WhatsApp mothers treating with epilepsy, with autism. And for 3 license, we have 18 kids, 3 under license and another 15 friends. And we had huge success. They all, and the news was around that, and the Minister of Health called a meeting and said, okay, I want to see how it affects these kids. And the idea was that these kids will be very severe autistic kids. Kids without communication at all. Very, very violent. Usually most of these kids have hands tied and helmets on the head because they are very violent. Half of these kids hospitalized in mental health hospital because the families can't hold them. And none of the medicine working on them. This was the criteria to give kids cannabis. So we follow up on these kids and we see a huge effect on these kids. Actually, it's the major indication today that I'm familiar that helping outside. 82% success, reducing aggressiveness, reducing anxiety, improving sleep. The average of the times that a kid with autism is waking up at night, it's 8.4 times. Think about a family that have a kid 16 years old that still 8 times a week, they wish, 8 times a night, waking up and screaming. And you have nothing to do. You need just wait until he's going back to sleep. Think about his brothers that all their lives, living with 8 times a night, you wake up when your brother is shouting and you need it to pass. The average after starting to take cannabis reduced to 1.2. Think about just on this parameter how it changed the lives of the families. And these kids getting high CBD, low THC, so they're not stoned. It's not a sedation. Look on these interesting parameters. Improving habits, 53% improve in male, 0 in female. Repetitive movement, 48% improve in male, 9 in female. Eye contact, 47% improve in male, 0 in female. Respond to name, 50% improve in male, 0 in female. So it's not working on females. Why? I don't know. But this is a fact that we see. My wife said that the female don't have a problem with eye contact and response to name. So maybe this is the case. But again, I'm coming back to the major of my talk. If we look on the different strains, we have 8 authorized growers. Every grower has the strain high CBD, low THC that he's giving for these kids. Blue, it's improvement. Green, no change. Red, become worse. And we're looking just on the male. I took the female out. So if you look on this strain, 100% of the kids that took it show improvement, and we look here on aggressiveness. And now you see that we align it, that there are strains that are working less. Even though they have the same amount of CBD, THC, CBG, CBN, the major compound that you will look on. There is one pure CBD, 18 kids got pure CBD that didn't work at all. So what is the difference between them? We still don't know. But what do you think to a child that's starting to take this strain and it didn't work on him? It's a small community, right? Everybody tell him, hey, why are you taking this one? Move to this one, it's working much better, right? So more and more kids move to this strain to take from this one, from this grower. But more than that, the Ministry of Health saw the result that it was so impressive that opened the gate to give more and more kids this cannabis. So in 1 year, we moved from 100 kids to 1,500 autistic kids. But what happened? This company ran out from this specific strain. They didn't plan to have so much movement of patients taking this strain. So after 1.5 months, they ran out. A cycle of cannabis is around 3 months. So they didn't have that. So what they did, they said, okay, instead of giving this strain, we will give a similar strain with the same amount of CBD and THC. Because actually on the bottle, on the oil, it's written 20:1 CBD to THC. 6.4 milligram per drop of CBD. So they didn't need to change nothing on the bottle, they just changed the strain. On the bottle, it's written the same thing. In 4 days, in 5 days, we had a crash of 40 kids. Every kid that transfer from this strain to this strain just crashed. Huge bursts of violence, there was a massive changes in their behavior. And look, the main one is the same, but if you look, there are other compounds that are totally different. It's a terrible story to the kids, but it's a gold mine to my lab. Because now we can say, okay, these one are probably very important to reduce anxiety and violence. And we can take them to animal model and to try to understand it better. So just to finish this story, we screen which company have a similar strain to this one, transfer the kids to this company, and in 1 day after they become again more relaxed and they came back. So for me, it's like a double-blind placebo. The kids didn't know, the family didn't know even that they changed the product. How much time I have? I'm run out?
As much as you want.
No, that's not working that way. Good, perfect. He said 1 hour. Maybe it's 1 minute? No, I understand. Okay, last thing. We're doing a clinical trial on 2,800 pain patients. Pain is a major treatment today in the world. 18,000 patients in Israel getting cannabis to reduce pain. In Israel, we are very medical. So in order to get cannabis for pain, you need to be chronic pain patient that been treated 1 year in a hospital with other medicine. It didn't work for you, and then you can get cannabis. So these patients are chronic pain patient, very severe patient, that getting cannabis after many medicines they tried. And we started to do this research, and we were sure that we know that cannabis is helpful for pain. We have a huge database. In this database, we are working with the growers. We are working with the main dispensary in Israel. And in the main dispensary in Israel, there is one dispensary. It's one of the mental health hospitals called Abarbanel. And I have 2 girls that working there, questionnaire the patient. Once a month, I'm going to visit there. And I'm speaking with the patient, and you see all the patients tell you how it saved their lives, how it changed their life, how they suffer for years. They are not working, they are not eating, and now they're taking cannabis and it changed their life. And these are real patients. Again, these are patients in Israel that have been treating a whole year with other medicine, didn't help them. These are the most severe patients that we have. And all of them, 100% telling you how it's changed their life. And you said, why we are treating with other medicine if this is so amazing? But you miss one thing, and I miss it in the beginning also. You see just the patient that it was success. Because which patient coming every month to take cannabis? The one that it worked for him. If he take cannabis, he was dizzy, he was falling, said, I'm not touching anymore, he won't fill any questionnaire and he won't be in any database. So the growers, doesn't matter if it's Aurora, Canopy, Tilray, or the Israeli, collect data just on the patient that it worked for them. One of my students, the head of bioinformatics in my lab, Saro, he's an Italian guy, came to me 3 months ago and said, Daddy, I want to to write a paper on safety with cannabis. I said, Saro, what do you mean safety with cannabis? He said, look, all the patients that we have in the question, none of them, nothing bad happened to them. It's very safe. Like you see dizzy, something, but there is nothing bad. And so, how many patients fill 5 times the questionnaire and stop? They are filling every month the questionnaire. He said, I don't know. I said, okay, press the button, right? His president said, 357 patients fill 5 times the questionnaire and stop. I think, you know that they all die, right? I said, no. Why not? They disappear, right? They fill and disappear. Maybe they were hospitalized because they had bleeding. I said, no, cannabis is not doing bleeding. This is doing science when you know the answer already. This is not real results. We don't know what's happened to the patient that stopped, right? Who said nothing bad happened to them? So in this clinical trial, we started to follow up the patient from the moment the physician decide to give cannabis, before even the patient know that he's going to get cannabis. And we look on that, and actually, very, very, very disappointing. Cannabis is a not good medicine for pain. If you look on that, just 45% of the patient saying that cannabis has helped them. Most of the patient trying and stopping less than 1 week. It's not working on them. 45% of the patient saying that it reduced around 25% of the pain. You see, we measure tons of pain parameters. We work with Elon Eisenberg, the head of the pain department in the hospital. We measure tons of parameters. Cannabis reducing 25% of the pain. In order for a medicine to consider medicine for pain, it needs to reduce more than 30% of the pain. So cannabis is not crossing the line to be a pain medicine. So now the question, why we have 18,000 patients in Israel that getting cannabis under prescription, and Israel is social, we funded that from tax, right? Why 18,000 patients in Israel getting cannabis? And why these patients, when you talk with them, saying how they saved their life if it's not reducing the pain? So when you look on other parameters, you see that it's also reducing the anxiety. It's also reducing depression. It's also improved disability. It's also improved the sleep. And if you look now on accurate parameters, how much other medicine they are dropping. So this patient, chronic pain patient, treating in the hospital more than a year, have every morning breakfast of pills, right? 20 pills, 25 pills. You see the number is crazy. A pill for depression, 2 pills for blood pressure, 2 pills for 1 month after the treatment, more than 80% of all the medicines, not just pain medicine, all the medicine being dropped. They stop taking all the medicines. This is not making sense. I just show you that it's not reducing the pain. And if you look, this is opioids. 80% reducing the opioids. If you still suffer from pain, why you stop taking the opioids? So if there is a parameter called catastrophism, how you see the pain, how much you complain of the pain, how you consider the pain. If you look on the real parameter for the pain, the improvement is very minor. But if you look on the catastrophism, what the patient think about his pain, there is a huge difference. So the patient actually saying, it's true that it reduced a little bit the pain, but I don't care. My life is better. It's actually you improve the quality of life. One story about one patient that giving this example. 28 years old, suffering from neuropathic pain, back pain in his back. Living in his parents' basement. Almost not going out, not working, stopped working 2 years ago. Hear music extremely loud because he said it's helped him not to think about the pain. Taking all the medicine, nothing helped them. Elon Eisenberg decided to start to give him cannabis. He started to take cannabis, sleep a little bit better, eat a little bit better, reduce the pain from 8 to 5.5, not like opioids reduce, but reduce the pain a little bit. Go back, starting to work again. Getting more money, start to get out more with his friends. This is all parameters that we're measuring. How much time you getting out. Starting to go out with his friend. Met a girl, more to move to live with her, and now is before marriage. So think about the quality of life. It's true that the pain didn't reduce much, but before that he was living with his parents in the basement, not working, and now he's just before marriage. He's in the tip of his life. It's just because before it's going down, right? Again. So but this is the change of quality of life. And this we can't measure. This as a scientist, if we look on the compounds and look exactly on pain, it won't work. On sleep, it's not enough. And these are 85% of the patients that getting cannabis. Quality of life. These are PTSD patients. These are cancer patients that taking as a palliative care to reduce nausea, improve, reduce pain. These are pain patients. This is the autistic kids. These are the people that taking for quality of life. It will be very difficult for us to put the finger. So I think if you ask me where cannabis will be in 5 years, there will be medical cannabis, but there will be two types of products. One product is treating illnesses, very accurate, milligram per ml of compound that good for reducing seizure, for cancer, for whatever. And there will be product that will treat majorly things with quality of life. I will skip this one, endocannabinoids and stuff boring, and I will just say thank you for my amazing group, Dr. Shirley Berman, that did all the analysis for the phytocannabinoid, Dr. Liran Baram that did all the cancer research, Dr. Gil Levitus that did responsible for all the neuro, and he did the research on the autistic kids, and all my amazing group that working hard. Thank you very much. Questions?
We're going to have some questions.
What?
We go to a consultation on the sofa. No, questions and answers. So good afternoon. So far, we don't have any question in the app. For those of you who have just arrived, the questions and answers are placed through the app. Once we don't have them, maybe we're going to ask you. If you have any questions, someone... Now we change seats.
For time today.
I prefer this one.
Any questions in the room? In the back, can we get a microphone, please?
Hi, good afternoon. I'm sorry, something's wrong with my voice, obviously. Congratulations for all the amazing work you have been doing, your team. The world of cannabis patients to get a little bit better with your help. Thank you. The question is that, as you mentioned, you have in Israel a very unique situation. You have a lot of data and under very limited constraints of vendors, products, and so on and so on, and which allows the kind of work you've been doing. What do you think that things like artificial intelligence, data science, and that kind of tools, which are more commonly available today than in the past for medical research, can guide some of your work in the future? And that's question one. Question two, we talked about epilepsy, pain, etc. What would be another disease that you see that cannabis is moving ahead in terms of proving if its efficacy? Thank you.
So first of all, about the database, and there is a sentence in database: garbage in, garbage out. I think we don't have good data collected yet, and for that, all the machinery, computer science is still not helping much because the data we're collecting is not good. The data that I'm collecting, I spent $5 million. I wish I would have them again to do this data, and I think in most of the places we failed. We did amazing things through the process, learning to analyze the compounds and do things, but we failed about the data itself. And looking on the data that in the world now, in the US, in Canada, it's still the data is missing a lot of parameters, and then for that reason, it's very difficult to do that. This is answering your first question. The second question, I think there are few diseases that will, or illnesses that will disappear. We will learn that cannabis is not really helping them, it's placebo. And there will few that will come and will be major. I think cannabis is affecting our neuro systems and all the diseases related to that, from Alzheimer, ALS, multiple sclerosis, and others. I believe cannabis will affect them. I'm not sure if it will be a medicine or a treatment, but it will affect them, and it's something that I see more and more in research and more results around that.
Thank you. Before the next question, let us remind you that for those who will attend the workshops tomorrow, Dedi's workshop will be at 9 a.m. sharp, since he's flying back to Israel. So please be on time. And now we have another question in the app, right, Michael?
Thank you. Yes, Jeanette Enrique. Thank you, Jeanette, for the question. Jeanette has asked a question about sexual hormones. Okay, finally, the room livens up a little bit. Okay, Dedi, for Jeanette, is it possible that sexual hormones, HPA axis, have a responsibility for the difference between female and males?
So from the 18 girls, 6 of them were before puberty, were very young, so 4 or 5, and for that, we never checked it to details, but for that I believe it might be not the reason, but I don't have a good answer for that. We never checked that. We know that there is effects, and for that reason, when you work with mice, we usually or work with female or work with males, because to separate it, the endocannabinoids system is changing by the circadian during the day, but also during the month. And you know, females are working in circadian and we are not working. So this is a difference that we're trying to eliminate, but I don't know the answer.
Thank you.
Great. Anybody else in the room? You need the first part of the question also. Okay. My apologies. What's your take on the endocannabinoid system influencing the responses of each patient?
Maybe just a second, because other people will
We'll
not
grab
be
the
able to
microphone
listen.
for you.
Just grab a microphone.
I understand the question. So the question is that every person have different endocannabinoids and then...
Basically everyone, each one of us in the room, everyone has a different tone of endocannabinoid system, whether it's the enzymes, efficiency, or the amount of endocannabinoids that each of us have. Is it possible that that tone of endocannabinoid system that each one of us has will influence our response to whichever cannabinoids we're exposed to via treatment or manipulating even that endocannabinoid system?
Yeah.
I don't know if I was...
Yeah, you were very clear. So I will divide it for 3. First of all, usually I'm answering this, that this is true for everything, and still we have medicines. So our immune system is different. Our every system, we're different. You know, I'm a male and you're a female, so we have different hormones, I hope. And and we still, when we have a migraine, we can take Advil gel or something like that. So it's true, and medicines affect different on people. The best medicine today for kids with epilepsy affect 37% of the kids. Sorry, 47% of the kids. The meaning of that it affects just half of the kids. Why? Because they are different. So it's true for every medicine. There is no medicine that's working for everybody. So this is the first part. Second part, we're trying to understand that, and we're putting a lot of efforts to have maybe predictors, or to be able through the endocannabinoid to predict if something will work or not work, and what is better to give. But the endocannabinoids I will be divided to 2. There is the ligand, the endocannabinoids, anandamide, 2-AG, and their brothers and sisters, and there is the receptors. So what we find out that with the receptors, let's take Crohn's disease, IBD, right? Inflammation, bowel disease. We see that, and we're taking biopsies from patients, we see that if they don't have a specific receptor, it's not affecting them. So the receptors, it's more easy. On the endocannabinoid, it's very difficult because the tone is changing if you're eating or not eating, if you slept good or not slept good, it's very different. But this is the last slides that I skipped. In the last year, we're putting a lot of efforts to be able to measure that and to put it in the database. So we're taking from the epileptic kids, every epileptic kids now, before he started to take cannabis, we're taking blood samples before and then following the end. And we're trying to see that if we have kind of a pattern of epileptic kids, that the cannabis helped them with if there was a pattern of endocannabinoids before, things like that. It's years of work. We're just starting to scratch the beginning. If you want to know, on Sunday, we get the first 5 blood samples from the epileptic kids. It's not that I'm doing it 5 years. Sunday, right? So we have the ability to measure that, and it will take time to learn. It is what it is.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else? No, we're all set for
it's
today.
done.
Okay, Dedi, thank you so much. That was fantastic.
Thank you so much.
Appreciate it.
My pleasure.